April 29, 2022, Vicky White ordered her subordinates to prepare Casey White for transport from the county jail in Florence, Alabama, to a courthouse for a mental evaluation. After the evaluation, she told the other deputies she would seek medical attention because she wasn't feeling well. As the assistant director of the jail, the woman was very well aware of protocol. She knew transporting an incarcerated person alone was against protocol, but she had already thought it out. In order to ensure she'd be the only officer available for this alleged transport to the courthouse, Vicky had scheduled a van transport for that morning. Hence, several deputies had left minutes earlier with 2 vans transporting a dozen inmates, just before Vicky announced to her subordinates she'd transport Casey White to his mental evaluation. Nobody dared question the woman because of her position in the prison hierarchy. Casey White was fetched shortly after. Nobody knew about the romance. But in the months prior to the escape, Vicky and Casey spoke on the phone over 900 times. Most of these calls were sexually explicit. Their romance wasn't merely budding, it was already well established. Dressed in a black jacket and black pants, Vicky White held the door open so a handcuffed and shackled Casey White could emerge out of the prison. The differences between the two of them were striking. 56-year-old Vicky was only 5'5" and had long blonde locks framing her face. Casey White was 6'9", dressed in an orange prison outfit and covered in tattoos. His brown hair was shaved. Once Casey shuffled to the back seat of the patrol cruiser, Vicky drove the car away. But there was no mental evaluation planned for the day. It had all been a part of Vicky's carefully crafted plan to whisk Casey away from the prison. Not even 10 minutes after they departed from the prison, Vicky stopped the patrol cruiser at a shopping center parking lot in Florence. The couple exited the car. Vicky left her jail keys and her radio inside the car. She uncuffed and unshackled Casey. Together, they ditched the vehicle and started making their way further down the path of freedom. When they failed to return to the prison, the other deputies working that day started to grow suspicious. The patrol car was found abandoned in the parking lot at about 11 a.m. Officers called and called Vicky White, but to no avail. Soon, everyone at the prison found out that there had been no mental evaluation planned for the day. They had to face the truth. Casey White had escaped, and Vicky White, the prison's assistant director.
At the Spectrum Lab, we're bringing you the best in connectivity with Spectrum One. Get Spectrum Internet with the fastest.
Had something to do with it. At first, Vicky's coworkers feared that the woman had been coerced and threatened in order to help Casey. But as authorities feared the worst and started their investigation, Vicky and Casey couldn't be happier. They had gotten to their getaway car, a copper-collared Ford SUV that Vicky had purchased only days before, using an alias, and were now on the road fleeing the state. Money wasn't an issue. Vicky had made sure of this too. In the weeks leading up to the escape, the woman sold her home in the tiny town of Lexington, Alabama, for $95,550. The sum was less than half of the house's market value. With tens of thousands in cash, Vicky could also insure some other necessities. After arriving in Williamson County, Tennessee, about a 2-hour drive north of Lauderdale County, Vicky and Casey abandoned the copper-collared Ford. The car was then found locked and abandoned. A tow truck driver transported the vehicle to a local tow lot, unaware of its origin. By 3:30 p.m. on April 29th, officials knew for sure that Vicky and Casey White were missing. In the initial official statements, Vicky was described as missing and endangered. But on May 2nd, a warrant was issued for the woman, charging her with permitting or facilitating an escape in the first degree. On May 3rd, Vicky and Casey were found in Evansville, Indiana. They drove in a Ford F-150 to a car wash in the city and then abandoned the car on the premises. They had another vehicle ready. This time they drove away in a Cadillac. On Monday, May 9th, 2022, a task force from Alabama descended on Evansville and teamed up with the deputies and marshals in Indiana. They were going to capture the fugitives once and for all. They scouted the area, but it wasn't until later that day when they found out the fugitives' whereabouts. Evansville detective Darren Richardson was driving home when he spotted the Cadillac in a motel parking lot. He got the license plate and tipped investigators. Vicky and Casey had paid a homeless person to use their identification in order to rent the motel room. Casey White was at the wheel. The car drove away. What happened was like a movie-like car chase. But it all stopped when a law enforcement official rammed the suspect's vehicle, sending it into a ditch. No one knows exactly what happened then, but when police reached the Cadillac, Vicky White had been shot in the head. Casey asked officers to help his wife, repeating that he didn't do it. It is unclear whether he was trying to further confuse officers by calling Vicky his wife. Vicky White died shortly after. Her death was ruled a suicide. Perhaps she couldn't imagine spending the rest of her life on the other side of bars. As for Casey White, the man was arrested. After 11 days on the run, his escape was to an end. He was transported back to Alabama. He was then transferred to the William E. Donaldson Correctional Facility in Bessemer, Alabama. In addition to being charged with escape in the first degree, he was also indicted for felony murder in connection to Vicki's death. Casey White's trial is expected to begin on April 17, 2023.